Welcome back. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi all set to take centre stage at the G7 summit in France. Carrying with him is not just India's priorities, but also the aspirations of the global south. Right from trade and technology to energy security and artificial intelligence and geopolitical conflicts and reforms in global governance, New Delhi is expected to push for a more inclusive international order. The summit that also offers top leaders key diplomatic platforms for bilateral engagements with world leaders, including discussions on trade, strategic partnerships, and also emerging global challenges. Let's get you this ground report by Managing Editor Zaka Jacob.
We're here in the Avion French resort town, the northern alpine town, where the G7 leaders meeting has gotten underway. President Trump has just arrived at the venue, and of course it kicked off with this dinner that's hosted by French President Emmanuel Macron. The leaders of Britain, Germany, France, Italy, Japan and the European Union are all taking part in the dinner tonight. But more importantly, tomorrow, which is Tuesday, Prime Minister Modi arrives here. India, along with Egypt, South Korea, Brazil, are part of some of the outreach countries this year for the G7. Prime Minister Modi's 7th G7 attempt. In fact, his first G7 was also here in France, in Biarritz, and now this is his 7th G7 meeting that he's attending on the trot. It also shows the importance of India, but it comes at a time when two things are happening. One, the war seems to be concluding. At least that's what Donald Trump had posted on social media ahead of arriving here in France, that finally America and Iran have a deal. But more importantly, will all sides stick to their end of the bargain? The biggest question is, will Israel stick to its end of the bargain? We're already seeing from some of the more right-wing, far-right elements in Mr. Netanyahu's coalition, Bezalel Smotrich, Itamar Ben-Gvir, that Israel will not honor the agreement. There is 5 days between now and Friday, when, again, in Geneva, which is not too far away from here on the other side of the lake, where this agreement is expected to be signed in the presence of top officials from both Iran and America, and also representatives from all the Middle Eastern countries as well as Pakistan. The big question that's being asked is, will Israel once again attack Beirut, once again attack Lebanon, thereby throwing a spanner in the works? Already Trump has indicated on a number of occasions in the last week alone how frustrated he is with Bibi Netanyahu and his refusal to join on board and actually put in place this ceasefire agreement, actually implement this ceasefire agreement. We'll wait and see if it actually holds between now and Friday, but it's going to be action-packed 3 days here in G7, led by some of the most powerful men and women in the world, and Prime Minister Modi will also be attending. He'll have a series of bilateral meetings, including the all-important one with President Trump on Wednesday, and we'll be having it covered live here on Times Now. Reporting from Avion on the foothills of the northern French Alps, along with video journalist Brij Kishore Bal, this is Zaka Jacob for Times Now.
Now, on the sidelines of the G7 summit, Prime Minister Modi is expected to also meet US President Donald Trump. Now, this will be the first meeting between the two leaders since their last interaction that happened on the February 2025. Now, a lot has happened since then. The tariff war that broke out, Trump endorsed the hellhole comment against India. The U.S. also kick-started its war against Iran. 3 sailors recently were killed in a U.S. attack, and also a multitude of issues that still remain unresolved between India and the United States of America. And that is precisely why the world is watching very closely the very moment that the two leaders come face to face once again.
All eyes are on the G7 summit, where Prime Minister Narendra Modi and US President Donald Trump are expected to meet for the first time since February 2025. The meeting is likely to provide an opportunity for both leaders to review the trajectory of the India-US ties and discuss key geopolitical developments shaping the Indo-Pacific and beyond. The timing of this meeting is also crucial, as it comes on the backdrop of the tensions in the Middle East and the attacks on tankers carrying Indian seafarers in the Gulf. 3 Indian sailors were killed in these attacks. Officials familiar with the preparations say that the trade and economic cooperation are expected to dominate discussions. New Delhi and Washington have been working to address outstanding tariff issues and expand bilateral commerce with both governments, expressing interest in strengthening economic engagement. Defense cooperation is also expected to be high on the agenda. India and the United States have significantly expanded military ties over the past decade through joint exercises, technology partnerships, and defense procurement agreements. Regional security concerns, including developments in the Indo-Pacific, China's growing strategic footprint and the ongoing conflicts in Europe and the Middle East are also likely to feature in the talks. The expected meeting comes as India continues to position itself as a key strategic partner for Western nations while maintaining an independent foreign policy approach. The G7 summit will bring together leaders from the world's major economies to discuss global economic challenges, energy security, emerging technologies, and international security issues. Although India is not a member of the G7, it has been invited as a guest nation, reflecting its growing global influence. Diplomatic observers say a Modi-Trump meeting could set the tone for bilateral engagement in the months ahead and also provide clarity on how the two countries plan to navigate an increasingly complex international landscape. As global challenges continue to mount, the expected Modi-Trump talks on the sidelines of the G7 summit are being closely watched for signals on trade, security cooperation, and the future direction of one of the world's most important strategic partnerships. Bureau Report, Times Now.
And before we wrap up this edition of the Morning News Hour, well, we have for you, if we want to catch the news on the move, Times Play, which has you covered, the all-in-one OTT streaming platform developed by the Times Network that uniquely blends a premium digital video entertainment with real-time news broadcasting. So you can catch your favorite news channel on Times Play, which is available on the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. With that, we head into a short break.